Hello, everyone, and welcome. We're just going to give it a few minutes here as we see people still joining us. But we're really excited to have you all here today and to talk a little bit more about the application for the Master of Management in Global Business and Society, or the GBS program here at the Yale School of Management. So again, we're just going to give it another minute or two while we see people still joining us today. Just waiting another minute or two while we still see people joining us. So thanks for bearing with us today. All right, I think we can go ahead and get started. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We're so excited to see so many of you here and interested in learning more about the Master of Management Studies in Global Business and Society, or the GBS program here at the Yale School of Management. Today, we're going to talk about some application tips to make sure that you all are ready and prepared to submit your best application for the program. My name is Evelyn Wilson. I'm the Associate Director of Admissions here for the GBS program, and I'll let my colleague Matt introduce himself briefly as well.
Thanks, Evelyn. Hi, everyone. My name's Matthew Lassance. I'm the Assistant Director of Admissions here with the Management Master's programs. Excited to talk a little bit more about the GBS program, share some tips, and hopefully help you create the best application.
Great, thanks, Matt. So we're going to do a quick recap of the program today. Hopefully most of you are already a bit familiar with the program, but just in case anybody's a bit newer to the GBS program, we're going to do an overview of the program at the beginning of this webinar, and then we're going to go into each part of the application in a little bit more detail, share with you what it is we're looking for and why we're asking for these elements of the application. And then we're going to share some, of course, tips from Matt and I about how to create the best application, and we're going to leave plenty of time at the end for a live question and answer as well. So please keep your questions until the end. Hopefully we'll actually answer them throughout the presentation, but if not, please feel free to use the Q&A feature here in the webinar, and we'll do our best to answer all of the questions that are remaining at the end. My colleague Elena, who's working the magic behind the scenes, is also going to be posting the brochure to our program in the chat a little bit later, so feel free to download that for some more information as well. And we will, again, leave time at the end for questions and answers. So just to kick off with our brief overview of the program, the GBS program is a one-year degree program that is designed for students who have completed or are working towards a Master in Management program. So the program is very flexible in the curriculum. We're going to talk about that a little bit more specifically in a moment. But it's really designed to complement your Master in Management studies and allow you to kind of dig deep into an area that you might be interested in learning more and developing. So with that, let's dive in. Okay, so the mission at Yale School of Management is to educate leaders for business and society. This is definitely something that we really take to heart at Yale SOM, and we try and have this element be present in every area of life at SOM. We're really aiming to develop leaders who are able to think critically about the big issues facing society today, and for students to be able to consider multiple perspectives when finding solutions. We're looking to bring students to SOM who have a deep sense of purpose in their work and who really connect personally with this mission. So that makes SOM a great place for you to interact with other students who are really doing amazing things across all different disciplines. I'm going to hand this over to my colleague Matt now, who's going to talk a little bit more about the opportunities that the GBS program is going to present to you, the curriculum, and a bit more about the application process.
Thanks, Evelyn. So the GBS program and some of the opportunities that are presented. So why the GBS program? you really have a lot of different pieces that I think add a lot of tremendous value to hopefully your MIM degree that you've already completed or are completing, and will hopefully help you as you jump into your future career. So one of the big pieces is really the curriculum, which we'll dive a little bit more into in a minute, and we'll see a bit more of a visual. But you have opportunity to dive extraordinarily deep into different topics that you might be interested in. There's a lot of flexibility in the program so that you can focus in on something you're really passionate about that maybe wasn't covered in your MIM program, or you didn't get to dive as deep into in your MIM program or undergrad studies. On the other side, you have that flexibility as well to have a little bit more breadth in your course selection. So maybe you're wanting to work on some of your soft and hard skills, or there's a few different areas of interest that you feel like you could shore up to really set yourself up for a successful start in your career. You have those opportunities, and we'll see a little bit more of that in a minute. Some of the other pieces, once you've completed your degree, you have two networks and two brands. So you've completed your MIM degree, and now you've completed the GBS degree. So you have both of those networks and both of those brands behind you and on your resume. You have the opportunity for global careers. We have an excellent CDO that works with our students that we can talk a little bit more about. And you're now not only having your MIM program, but also the GBS program. Many of our students completed their MIM program outside of their home country. And then the GBS program is also in a completely different country. So now you're really globalizing yourself and globalizing the opportunities you have in your career. And then a community of purpose. I think Evelyn spoke to it very well in what our mission means. And it really starts at the top from our president and goes all the way down to the students and those prospective students. We really take that into account. We want people that really see our mission, believe in our mission, and are going to be good stewards to share our mission and share that passion with future generations. So taking a look a little bit more at our curriculum, there is one required course, Business and Government After Communism, and you see that in white on the wheel. And then in yellow, you're going to see 16 units of advanced management courses. One of the neat pieces of that, while they are specific courses that you have to select from, you have 18 different courses that you can select from. Many of these are student favorites. I know game theory, specifically negotiations, personal and interpersonal effectiveness are some of the most popular ones. And you get a lot of opportunity to select from those courses. And then you have 18 units of elective courses, and those elective courses can come from the course catalog across Yale. So you have 170 plus elective courses at the School of Management. And then on top of that, you also have the opportunity to learn from leading professors at Yale's other 12 professional schools and the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences. So it gives you a lot of flexibility to dive deep into those topics, as we just talked about, or have a little bit more breadth. And maybe you're interested in some sustainability courses at YSE, policy courses potentially at Jackson School, or maybe the law school. Maybe you're interested in working on your stage presence and your speaking, and maybe you take a class at the School of Drama. There's a lot of possibilities that you can certainly look into and consider. And this is definitely something that is really unique, I believe, to the GBS program. One of the other opportunities that our students have is to take a look at the management science concentration, or the STEM concentration. You would complete a minimum of 16 credit units of eligible courses focusing on applying quantitative methods to challenges in business and management. You do need to declare this concentration when you are applying. So on the application, I believe there's a box that you would check off, and you can go for that at that point. And one of the nice pieces of this is you do have 26 elective options. So 26 different courses to choose from to complete those 16 credit units. It gives you a lot of opportunity. And then on top of that, one of the other pieces that you might be eligible for is normally you have 1 year of OPT or optional practical training upon graduation. This could potentially make you eligible for a 2-year STEM extension, giving you, as you can see, the 3-year work permission in the US after graduation, potentially. And then we'll take a look here. It should be in a bit of a wheel again. You have your, I believe it's the 2 units of required courses in white. Then you have your 16 advanced management courses in yellow. In blue this time, we're going to see the management science or STEM concentration courses. And then you still have room there for the 2 units of elective courses. So this is not something that you must do, but it is an option that you can certainly look into and potentially be eligible for. So taking a look at the application process, and we're going to dive a little bit deeper into each piece of this in a minute. So you would go online to our website, you fill out the application. You're going to have 3 essay questions, typically between 250 and 300 words. You would send in or add your resume, your most up-to-date resume, your transcripts for all schools, GMAT or GRE test scores, letter of recommendation, your letter of support from a dean or director, and video questions upon you would pay your $95 application fee. And then within about 24 hours, so be patient, sometimes they take a minute, you would get 3 video questions. And those come from a variety of questions. And I believe we'll dive a little bit more into that in a minute. And then if your application is selected, you'll receive an invitation for a Zoom interview, which would be conducted with myself or potentially Evelyn. And we would go from there. And I believe our application deadlines now are January 4th is round 1, which is exclusive for GNAM schools or limited to GNAM school students. Then from there, rounds 2 and 3 are open to all students. And those rounds, the deadline for them is February 21st or April 9th. And keep in mind when looking at this, I know the GNAM only round of round 1 sounds a little bit like I have to get my application in. If you're a GNAM student and your application isn't ready, that's okay. You can apply in round 2 or 3, and there's still opportunities for you to get a seat for admission to the program. Make sure your application is at its best. On the other hand, if you're not a GNAM school student, that's okay. Rounds 2 and 3, there are plenty of seats still available. We make sure that if a student is good, if they are qualified, if they meet the standard and deserve entry or admission to Yale SOM, there's going to be a seat available for them. Now, taking a look at affording your GBS. So we do understand that this is, an expensive program. $82,700 is the tuition, and then living expenses, which we figured to be about $32,116. But we are committed to working with all of our students to make sure that this is an affordable program and find a financial aid package that makes the GBS program possible for them. So just to give you a quick idea of what some of that looks like, when you apply for the program and if you're admitted, upon admission, you'll receive in your letter or your merit-based scholarship money, and you would see that number there. Then if you wanted to, you can apply for need-based scholarship funds, and you would apply for that through financial aid. They take into account all of that stuff that leaves our plate and goes to them. Then from there, you can also look into international student loans, which we do work with a few providers and can certainly share those. There are other scholarship opportunities available that you can look into. And then we do have on-campus student employment opportunities. And that may be something, I know a few of our students right now that are admissions ambassadors are currently doing different employment around campus. So they may be a good resource to talk to and see if you are thinking about any of those things. But again, we do work with all of our students to try to make sure that you have a financial aid package that it's going to make the GBS program possible for you. And I'm going to pass it back over to Evelyn.
Perfect. Thank you, Matt. As we mentioned earlier, we're going to be saving lots of time at the end for a live question and answer. So please save your questions. Again, we're going to go through each element of the application in a bit more detail in just a minute. So hopefully we'll answer your questions, but we will be answering questions live at the end of this section. So feel free to use the Q&A feature to ask us any questions you might still have after we've gone through all the elements of the application. So to kick us off, the essays. The essays are not too long. There are 3 essays that are required, and they're only about 250 to 300 words each. So they're very short essays. And so let's take a look at our essay prompts and kind of talk about each of them together. Essay number 1, Yale SOM's mission statement is to educate leaders for business and society. How will the GBS program improve your impact in society? So here we're really looking for you to connect with the mission. What does our mission mean to you, and how do you personally connect with it? Share with us your reasoning for applying to the GBS program and how this program will affect your decisions moving forward. Connect the dots for us between your MIM program, the GBS program, and the mission. Why does it make sense for you to take this program, and why do you need it? Essay number 2. How do you think artificial intelligence will affect the way we conduct business? How will it affect your role personally and the way you approach your work? So in this question, we're not really looking for any specific answer, but we're, again, looking for you to tie in the mission with your goals. And how do you think this industry of work that you are in or you are interested in is going to be evolving in the next few years with the development of artificial intelligence? If you have any experience working with AI, it would be great to include that so you can add a little bit more of a personal touch. But if you don't, that's perfectly okay too. We're not expecting it. But it can be a nice way to kind of weave things together and, again, share with us your story. We really are interested in how you approach your work and how you see that changing or developing over the next phase of your career, especially with the development of artificial intelligence. Essay number 3. What were your short and long-term goals when you started your master's degree? And how will the GBS program influence or change these goals? So here we really want to learn more about what you are passionate about. Again, connect the dots for us between your MIM program, the GBS program, and the mission. And why does it really make sense for you, or why do you need the GBS program? Are there any gaps in your skill set that you have identified that you're still looking to develop? An area of interest, like Matt identified earlier, that you might have found or learned a little bit about through your MIM program, but you want to dig deeper? Share with us your reasoning for the program and how it's really going to affect your goals. Why will the GBS program help you to achieve your goals? Remember also that the essays are an opportunity for us to really evaluate the way that you communicate, the way that you formulate a point or create an argument, and your writing style. So it's most important to be authentic here and to use your own voice throughout. And also remember the basics. Proofread your work. Spell check doesn't always catch everything. So that's something that's really important. And try not to go off on tangents. These essays are really quite short. So remember to stick to the prompt, answer the question directly, and try not to go off onto any other tangents because you just don't really have space for that. Okay, next, transcripts. So we do need to see transcripts from all degree granting institutions that you have attended throughout your academic career. So this means your undergrad, of course. If you went on any exchanges, we'd want to see that. If you transferred in your undergrad, we need to see the transcripts from both institutions that you attended. And we're also interested in seeing your grades and your transcript from your Master in Management program as well. So we understand that many of you might currently be in an MIM program and you might not have grades yet. That's fine. Even if you just share with us a list of courses that you're currently taking, that will help us to kind of evaluate where you are currently. And then as you get those transcripts for your first semester finishing up, then you can always send us those and we can add it to your application on the back end. So no worries there. We accept unofficial transcripts until enrollment, so you don't need to have anything official. But we do suggest that you have your school print it or create it for you, just because then it will have all of the required information right in one place. So we're really looking for you to have your name, the school's name, evidence of successful completion of the program, or at least of the courses and the grades. So the course titles and the grade that you achieved in those courses is important. And also remember to have an English translation if your transcript doesn't come in English already. This is something that's really important just so that we can evaluate your academic history properly. So we're really looking at more than just your GPA. Although we do look at your GPA, and we use this with the test score that Matt's going to talk about in a minute. In combination, this is the way that we're going to evaluate your quantitative skills to make sure that you're going to be successful and you're going to be able to thrive academically in an academically rigorous program, which the GBS program is. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Matt to talk a little bit about the test scores.
Thanks, Evelyn. So test scores. So test scores are a good opportunity to show the committee you're capable of success in our curriculum using something recent to help us understand your skill set and abilities. We do require a test score. There is no waiver or anything that is going to waive the test score. We accept GMAT or GRE test scores. We also, I believe it's the GMAT Focus. We are accepting that test score as we slowly get those in now that that's started. And then one of the big things too that we often get asked is, oh, I didn't take the exam to enter a MIM program, or maybe you have, and maybe that score is 3 years old or 2 years old. So we will still accept those scores if they are a little bit older, if you used it to get into the MIM program. On the other hand, if you haven't taken it yet, there's still plenty of time. This kind of goes back to our complete your application and submit it when you're ready. Don't submit an application without a score, without knowing what your score may be. That way you can feel confident and comfortable with your application as you go about submitting it. Looking at your resume and or CV. So this piece tends to be overlooked. I think it's easy to upload your most recent one that you've used for your last internship or job or whatever it may be, and not go over it. What do we look for in this? So we're looking for a snapshot of your professional experience, 1 to 2 page resume, curated list, a little bit more organized to the point. We like to see it in chronological order so that we can quickly see what you've done, kind of starting with your most recent experience and working down. Go through it. Focus on the achievements, what value you might have added, rather than just a list of responsibilities that maybe you had throughout it. Include all work that you feel is relevant, and feel free to add a little bit of a description to some of the positions. I know many of you are international students, and some companies and businesses we've heard of before, some of them we haven't. So sometimes it gives us a little bit more background on what you might have done or what the company does, and helps us understand a little bit more of what maybe your goals are or why you're interested in taking the steps that you are. And it's definitely okay to include some activities or interests of yours that are important to you, as we want to get to know you a little bit better. Don't make it a big portion or half the page, but definitely give us a little bit more information about that. Couple of things to kind of note with this. Really take the time to proofread this. Oftentimes this, spell check doesn't catch everything, as Evelyn mentioned, and we find some mistakes in this. Make sure that you're listing honestly what your position was, what type of position it was. So if a position was an internship, was it unpaid? Was it part-time? Was it full-time work? These things all make a difference. Don't put down, I was an analyst at a company when you were an analyst intern or a summer intern. And okay, yes, you might have analyzed things, but that's being a little bit, it comes off a little sketchy or misleading sometimes when we read that. And then when the background check company goes through and looks and says, well, no, they didn't do this, it definitely throws up some flags for us. So definitely something to make sure, be honest, be truthful. We want to get to see the information, see what you did, and we want to know a little bit more about you. So I think, as I mentioned, kind of to the point, snapshot of your professional experience, 1 to 2 pages, work from your most recent down, include, that work experience for us to understand. And then one of the big things too is proof of employment. So contract, a internship or work experience certificate, something showing that, this position happened, you did it, or you received it. We also will accept if it's something that maybe over winter break you're doing an internship or you have an offer for next summer, you can include that, but make a note that you've been offered it, the times, make sure that all of those pieces are there so that we can easily distinguish this is a internship in the future or what the position is and all of that information. Okay. All right, and I'm going to pass it back to Evelyn to talk a little bit more about letters of recommendation.
Great, thank you, Matt. So letters of recommendation are the next required field in our application, and these are really important. So we require one professional recommendation from a current or previous supervisor. Ideally, it would be your direct supervisor, but titles here are really less important. It's more important, or it's most important, to choose a recommender who you worked closely with and who can really talk about you in a meaningful way. So we want to hear about your character, your performance, and your professional potential, what your goals are, why this program makes sense for you. If they can share some stories or some anecdotes about their experience working with you professionally, that's always great to hear. Really somebody who can speak to you in a meaningful way, again, who knows you well. Make sure that you request these letters well in advance. Your recommenders are going to be busy people, and so they might need a lot of time to kind of think about it and time to craft the letter that they want to submit on your behalf. Sometimes we know that recommenders can be so busy that they might even recommend that you draft the letter yourself, or you give them talking points that you would like to be present in your letter. And if this happens to you, then it's really time to find a new recommender. Again, it's really important to find somebody who has the time to devote to writing something that's going to be meaningful about you. And it really needs to come directly from them. We also require that your employer or your recommender submits this letter directly to us through their professional email address. So we do not accept Gmail, Yahoo, Hotmail, QQ, any of those personal email addresses we won't accept. So we'll definitely be back in touch with you to ask your recommender to submit their letter of recommendation again if they submit through their personal email addresses. So this is something that's really important to remember, that it needs to come directly from your recommender to from their professional email address. Of course, they also need to submit it by the application deadline so that you have a complete application for us to review once we begin reading. That's really important. Otherwise, we won't be able to review your application. So again, make sure that you give your recommender plenty of time to create and submit your recommendation letter. And also be in touch with us if there are any problems or concerns with your recommender submitting it from their professional email account. I know in the past we've had some recommenders reach out and let us know that their company might have a firewall or some kind of reason that they aren't able to access the link that we send them to submit their application. If that happens to you, no worries. Just reach out to us at gbs@yale.edu is our team email address, and we'll be able to work with you to and your recommender for them to be able to submit it to us in a different way. So please don't worry, but the most important thing is that it comes from your recommender directly. So we also require a letter from your dean or director of your Master in Management program. You can contact your program at your school to find out who the best person is for this letter. It's usually your program director, so it might not actually come from the dean themselves. But we can always work with you if you have questions about who that person is as well. Again, request this letter well in advance. Your directors and your deans are also very busy people, and make sure that we have the letter by our application deadline as well, so that we have a complete application for you when we begin reading. What we're looking for in this dean or director letter is a little bit of information about you and your program. So were you a good citizen of your school? Did you successfully complete or are successfully completing your program? And just kind of be a character reference for you as well, and make sure that you're doing well and that you're kind of positively contributing to your school during your Master in Management program. So I'm going to hand this back to Matt to talk a little bit about the video questions.
Thanks, Evelyn. So the video questions. So once you've completed the application and you've paid the $95 application fee, within 24 hours, you'll receive a link to complete your video questions. There are 3 video questions that you'll answer, all in one sitting. There won't be any retakes. There's no need to refresh, anything like that. And it's 3 random questions selected from a number of different ones. So they're all different. So there's no real preparation that needs to go into it. And really, we're using this to evaluate communication skills, evaluate thinking, and kind of being able to think on the fly and share a little bit more about yourself and some of that type of information. One of the big things that we really want to emphasize with this, be authentic. You really don't need to prepare any notes or anything specific for these questions. It's okay to have notes. I think it's always good to have notes to reference and to kind of bring you back maybe to a certain point or a certain topic, but don't just read off of them. Don't prepare a statement. We can definitely tell the difference between the two. It's okay if you stumble a little bit, but you're authentic and we can see that you're trying to think through it and you're working towards it. That's way better than watching someone just read left to right on a screen. So definitely be authentic and definitely, think about the question. You've got, I believe, about a minute usually to see the question, think about it, maybe write down a note or two. And then typically the questions will be answered in, I believe it's a minute to a minute and a half, depending on the timeline. And again, there's a selection of questions. None of them are anything crazy or anything that you really need to sit down, prepare, and research for. So that's one of the nice pieces to this. And then our optional information essay. So this optional information section is not just another essay. Use this as an opportunity to explain something that may be interesting about your essay or about your application, or that there might be something that we look at and pause on or have a question about. If you feel like, your GPA might have been a little low, or maybe you didn't have such success in a specific class, that's a great opportunity to explain a little bit more about that or what happened. If there's a space in your resume where maybe you weren't working and you were kind of trying to figure some things out, explain that to us, talk to us about it. One of them too, if something happened and maybe there was, I don't know, an academic issue aside from that, use this as an opportunity to explain or address those anomalies or questions that we may have, so that the committee members can understand a little bit more why it's on your application or why we're seeing it, and get a better sense of, what this applicant was doing, why they did it, and how they've worked forward from it. And I think it's definitely an important thing to note. Use this specifically for that. Don't use it as an opportunity to just give us more information about yourself, why you want the program, things like that. We already have your application for that. We don't need to read more about that.
Okay, great. Now, as promised, we're going to leave some time for open questions and answers. So hopefully this webinar so far has been helpful in kind of giving you an overview of the program and what we're looking for in each element of the application. But please use this time now to ask us any questions that you might still have remaining. And then at the end, we're going to give you one piece of advice from each of us as you think about creating your application as well. Let's see. So I have a couple of questions that have been submitted here already. One is there preparation time for the video questions? I think Matt just touched on that. Yes, there is preparation time for each question. I think it's about a minute.
Mhm.
So you'll receive the video prompt and then have a few minutes, or sorry, about a minute for preparation and to kind of jot any notes down that you might want to touch upon during the video questions. But again, we recommend that you try and be as authentic as you can be as authentic as you can in the video questions, and try not to read a paragraph, but just kind of talk openly, but it's fine to refer to any notes that might be helpful during that time. So hopefully that helps answer that question. Also,
Um,
yes, this session is being recorded, and we will be sharing a recording of this presentation after completion. So if you registered for this session, then you'll be receiving a link to the recording. So no worries there.
so I'm seeing one about how GPA might affect the application, and I'm guessing GMAT, GRE scores, all those sorts of things. So we don't have a minimum requirement or a minimum score because everybody's different. Different things have affected that. And so we really try to look at the application holistically and see each piece of it individually and not just take it as, well, the GPA is low when maybe they had great test scores, or maybe the test score is a little bit lower, but they had great grades and they've really worked hard and done a lot of internships or different things like that. We try to look at each piece of it on an individual basis and take each of those things into account. Again, there is no minimum score, there's no average score that we share because each year it differs. So I would say, if you do feel like maybe your GPA is a little bit lower, or maybe your test score is a little bit lower, maybe that's something that you can talk about in that optional essay and explain, what happened, what was it that maybe affected your score or affected your GPA a little bit in that time, and what you've done to work forward from that, or hopefully improve upon it or improve on it. So definitely something to note is use that essay to kind of explain that, or if it's a GMAT, GRE score, there's still plenty of time to take the test again and work on maybe raising that score if you don't feel like it's at the level you want it to be to feel confident in your application.
Thanks, Matt. I'm seeing a question here about PREPA students who might have attended a PREPA class or PREPA school before attending HSA. And it's perfectly fine to just submit your transcripts from HSA if you don't have access to earlier transcripts. And if you have specific questions about your case, then just email us at gbs@yale.edu, and we're happy to kind of work through it in a more individual case-by-case scenario for you to see what would be best for your case. But yeah, it's fine to just submit your your HSA transcripts if that's what you have. I'm also seeing some questions about the essay questions. So one person's asking, are we looking for evidence of how you structure your thinking, or really more personal engagement with the question topic? I would say there's not really a right or a wrong answer here. I think probably the most important is to focus on answering the question, the essay question. And again, personal engagement with that essay question is definitely going to be helpful and going to make your essays stand out a little bit more. So I would probably focus on that, and probably through the structure of your answer, we'll be able to gain a little bit more insight into how you think and how you approach these topics. So hopefully that helps, but there's not really any right or wrong way to structure the essay questions.
So I am seeing one on talking a little bit more about proof of employment. So contracts, sometimes students get like a internship or a work certificate, things like that. I think different something that shows or can kind of give us that verification to say, okay, this prospective student has done this position or has completed this internship, this work experience. And this is something that we look at, but then when if you are admitted, you'll go through a background check, and during that, they're going to reach out to these companies. So it's basically giving us that little bit of reassurance on the front end that when you go to do the background check, it's going to be a breeze, and it should be something that everything should go right through and there won't be any questions or any issues with that. We try to make sure that you have it on the front end, because those background checks can take somewhere, it could be 4 weeks, it could be 8 weeks, it could be longer sometimes. So we are trying to make sure that if you have that on the front end and everything looks good, it should make it a lot easier and a lot quicker on the back end, and allow you, especially for students applying in round 3, especially them, to be able to get through that process a lot quicker and a lot easier.
So I see another question here about our M2M application process. So I just want to touch on that a little bit to clarify for anyone who might be listening that is not as familiar with the M2M applications, and then also the process for an application through the M2M program is a bit different. So the M2M, or Master to Master program, is a partnership that we have with 3 different schools, HSA, HKUST, and UBC, where you are applying for both your MIM, your Master in Management, and the GBS program at the same time through the same application. So this is more relevant for students who are in your undergrad. If you have already started a Master in Management program at any of those schools or any other business school, then the M2M is not for you. You would be just applying through the GBS application, as we've been discussing earlier today in the webinar. If you are interested in the M2M program and applying to either HSA, HKUST, or UBC at the same time as the GBS program, then you'll actually be starting your application with the year 1 school. So with any of those 3 other partner schools is where you will begin your M2M program, and you will not submit a GBS application through our platform unless you're applying to UBC. So this person's asking specifically about applying through HSA. So you will not actually complete any of these, the application that we've been talking about. You will start your application with HSA, submit everything through them, and then they're going to transfer us your application, which will include a lot of the information that we've already talked about. And then once we receive it, we will reach out to you and ask for some additional information. So we will send you a link for the video questions, and we'll ask for you to submit some additional materials so that we have everything we need to read your application, make an admission decision. Through the M2M program, the admission dates, or the application dates, and the decision dates are also a little bit different because they're made in conjunction with the partner schools. So again, please check the year 1 school that you're interested in for all of that information. They'll have all of the deadlines available there and more information about the process. So really the takeaway message here is start with the year 1 school and reach out to them for more specifics if you have more questions, or of course you can reach out to us as well, but they're really going to be the place that you're going to be starting your application, and then you'll be hearing from us a little bit later. Hopefully that helps clarify and not just make things more confusing. But feel free to ask more questions about this if anybody has any further questions about the M2M program.
So I'm seeing 2 questions here from Jesselyn. So you can definitely, once you click the link, that's when you would be starting the video questions. So the link to the questions gets sent to you within 24 hours. It's not that you have 24 hours to complete it. So it'll get sent to you within 24 hours. We say that because sometimes it takes a little bit longer. Sometimes it can be right away. But you would get that link, and then once you're ready, then you can take those steps and kind of, you click the link, you hop on, it'll show you the prompt or the question. I believe it might be me or Evelyn actually asking you the question. And then you would take about a minute, I believe, to think about it, jot down some notes, and then the video camera will pop on and it'll start recording. So just be aware, it does just start recording. And so sometimes that can be something that students don't know, but it starts recording, you would start answering, and then typically you have between a minute and a minute and a half to respond. And then I'm seeing a second question on letter of recommendation could be the dean or director of our program, since the dean letter is also required. And the closest supervisor is our dean. I'm not sure, Evelyn, you might have
Yeah, so I think this person is just asking about the right person to submit
okay.
the letter of recommendation, and I think that depends on where you're coming from. So in this case, it sounds like it might be the dean, which is perfectly fine. We'll definitely be happy to receive that recommendation letter from your dean. If your closest supervisor is a dean, then that sounds like that makes the most sense. So you'll only need one letter of recommendation from the dean or director. So from your school, we'll only require one letter, and then the second letter that of recommendation that's required is a professional recommendation letter from a recent work experience or employer that you've had.
Right.
So
So
yeah, go ahead,
sorry,
Matt.
no, what were you gonna say?
No, I was just gonna address another question that we've received about transcripts.
Mhm.
So somebody's asking, are undergraduate transcripts required? The answer is yes. So any degree granting institution that you've been to throughout your academic career, we will need to see those transcripts. So your undergrad, if you went on exchange during any of your undergrad or your MIM program or any other courses or programs that you've been part of, we want to see the transcripts from your exchange as well. Um, any type of degree granting institution that you have attended, we'd like to see those transcripts from. For international students, if your undergraduate and graduate degrees are both completed in English-speaking countries and your work experience is primarily in English, do you have to provide TOEFL or IELTS test scores? No. So we don't require any TOEFL, TEFL, IELTS scores to prove your level of English. We will be able to assess that through the essays, through the video questions, and through your interview if you get to the interview stage. So there's not any English test requirement that we ask for as part of the application. So hopefully that helps.
And to add on to that, if you can have your documents translated to English, it helps the admissions and the application review committee a ton with being able to review quickly, easily, and going through it. And it definitely something to note. And also I'm seeing a question about, are you expecting professional attire for the video questions? So I would say it doesn't hurt. I think it's best to dress to impress, dress for success. However you want to phrase it, I think it's always good to look professional, be professional. I think if you feel good, you're going to present good and you're going to be at your most confident. So I think that's the best way to do it. With that, I would also say find a good spot, a quiet spot, preferably where you're going to be able to sit down, really focus and present your best self. Sometimes you can't always do it in a spot that's perfectly quiet, but it definitely helps. I think sometimes when we can't hear a student because there's a lot of noise in the background or things going on, it gets a little distracting and a little tough to, see or review the video questions. So really try and find that good quiet spot where you can be confident, feel comfortable, and do your best with those. And then we review everything, and then this kind of goes into the next question on will we receive the email for invitation or interview regardless of whether or not we're successful. So we review the applications, and then you will be invited to interview if you've moved on to that next stage of the review process. So not everyone will receive an interview invite. That is something that those selected to kind of move forward will receive. And then I know there were a couple of questions from that were asked earlier, but looking at, I know there were a couple, or one that I saw that was interesting. What value will Yale mostly seek? Will leadership and sustainability be a great passion to showcase in the admission process? Yes, I think this is something we want to know what you're passionate about, why you're passionate about it, how is this program going to help you fulfill or accomplish things within that passion. So if you're passionate about sustainability and business, and you can tie that to the program and explain what courses maybe you're interested in taking and how those are going to help you, or what about the GBS program is going to make you successful? Those are important things to us. We want to know how it's all going to help. And I think that's something that if you can tie it back to our mission, that's even better. We want students that are mission aligned, that are going to continue to work towards sharing that mission, sharing that passion. And I think that's something that's great to showcase in the application, and definitely something I would highlight. And then one other piece, friendliness towards non-GNAM students and applicants. Our students, so when it comes to the admissions committee, we look at everyone as they're a student. Round one, yes, is reserved for GNAM students. Those GNAM students can apply in rounds 2 and 3. We don't look at anything differently from those schools. So whether you are a GNAM school student or a student from outside of those schools, your application is reviewed in the exact same way. There's no difference, no preference, nothing like that given to any students in any of those programs. So don't look at it as something you should worry about or be concerned with. You're going to get the same look over and review as anybody else would. And if you're a GNAM student, you don't have to apply in round 1. I think I saw a question about that. You can apply in rounds 2 and 3 as well. And this kind of goes into completing your application once you're ready and confident with it.
Thanks, Matt. I see one final question here. We do have a couple of minutes left. If you have anything left that you are curious about or would like to ask any more questions, now is the time. Otherwise, we'll address this and then maybe give one final piece of advice from each of us as you go about preparing your application. But so somebody's asking about when are we going to get the interview invitations? So those are a couple of weeks after the submission deadline. So we, as the committee, need a bit of time to kind of read through all the applications that we receive and select those that we'd like to pass along to the next stage, which would be the interviews. So we need a couple of weeks to kind of do all of that once we receive your application after the deadline. And then within a couple of weeks, you'll be receiving an interview invitation if you're going to be moving on to the next stage. And how many seats will be offered for the upcoming year is another question that just came in. So we don't really have a fixed number. We're really looking for the best and the brightest students from across the world to join our class. This year, our class is around 70 students. So generally, we're looking for about 70 to 75, I would say, is the average size of a cohort. But it really depends year on year exactly how many seats we're going to be filling. I also want to just give one little piece of clarification about scholarships. I know there were a few questions about scholarships that came in earlier as well. So for the GBS program, we actually don't have a need-aware scholarship, unfortunately, but we do have merit-based scholarship that each and every admitted student will be considered for without needing to submit any additional documentation. And as Matt said, we're committed to working with each and every admitted student individually to make sure that this program is a possibility for you. So to ensure that you have access to international loan providers if there's a gap in any scholarship or funding that you might have available to you. Again, we work with several international loan providers who are able to help fill that gap. And we can also work with you on potential on-campus employment opportunities or other scholarship opportunities from your home country. We always recommend that students look into that as well, because there may be some funding availability that you might have access to or might be eligible for from your home country as well. So keep that in mind. And for now, I don't see any other questions in the Q&A, so hopefully we've answered all of your questions today. And Matt, if I can put you on the spot, do you want to share a final piece of advice for all of our students today?
Yeah, I think the final piece of advice I would give would be plan ahead. Deadlines really can sneak up on you, especially this time of year. I think there's so much going on. Some of you may be in school at the moment, some of you may be working. With a lot of things going on, really plan ahead so that you're not doing things at the last possible minute or trying to get everything together to complete your application. If we don't have everything for your application, we can't read it, unfortunately. So definitely make sure you have everything. One of the biggest pieces to this that I think a lot of students unfortunately get held up with is the letter of recommendations. I know Evelyn touched on it. Make sure you ask your recommenders well in advance so they have plenty of time to sit down, write a good letter of recommendation, share a little bit more about you, your good standing with the program and all of that. I think it also gives you a good opportunity. If you plan ahead, you can really sit down, take time to review each of your essays and each thing that you're adding to the application to make sure that it is at its best, and that when you do press that final submit button, you feel confident and really good about your application. And it really allows you to make sure that you've sat down, you've reviewed, what about the program is it that you're excited about and interested in? What does the program offer you, and what are you going to gain from it, hopefully? It helps you make sure that you've answered all those questions and you're ready to go. I don't know if you have a final piece as well, Evelyn.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. That's definitely really good advice, and hopefully everybody takes note of your wise words of planning ahead. I think my final piece of advice to everybody would be to stay authentic and true to who you are. We're really looking to get to know you through the application process. So we want to hear your voice through the essay questions, and we want to see who you are and how you approach um, answering a question through the video questions. And again, we're really trying to get a sense of who you are as a person through this application. So make sure that that shows true through your application, and that you are showing your authentic self and showing us who you really are. Again, connect the dots for us here. Why does the GBS program make sense for you? Why do you need this program? Why is the MIM program not enough for you? Is there a gap in your skill set that you're looking to fill? Or is there an area that you're really looking to dive into and learn more about through the GBS program? Why do you need this program, and why is it going to help you in your next career move? So tell us that story through this application process. And then just one other little tidbit that I have to just throw in there. Make sure you read and follow the instructions really carefully as well. This is just such an easy one that sometimes trips people up. But read the instructions carefully and make sure that you're following them. Again, read the essay questions carefully and make sure that you're answering those questions in your essays as well. Just simple things that sometimes people forget as they're kind of in the middle of the application. So hopefully this has helped you. I'm just going to put, our final piece of advice. I have a couple of QR codes to share with you here. The one on the left is going to take you to our GBS website. There's lots more information on there. And hopefully, Elena, if you have a moment, we can post the brochure in the chat as well, then students can download it there as well. But again, on our website, we have lots of information. Again, more information about the application, but also about the program, the mission, everything that we've talked about today. So definitely check that out. Perfect. Thanks, Elena. She's just posted that in the chat. So make sure that you download the brochure there, and you can review that later on as well. And we're also going to be having some more upcoming events that you're more than welcome to join. We're still working on setting the dates, so keep an eye on our website for those specific dates. But in January, we're going to be having a student panel webinar. Those ones are always really fun. So we're going to be having a couple of our current students on with us, answering questions and sharing information and more about their experiences with the program. So it's definitely really great to hear directly from the students themselves. So recommend that one for sure. And then in February, we're going to be holding another one of these application tips webinars. So if you're not planning on submitting in round one, or you're not a global network school student, and you're going to be submitting in round two, then feel free to join us back here again for another application tips webinar. Ask us any questions that you might have. And always feel free to reach out directly to us at gbs@yale.edu. You can see down in the corner of the screen here, that's our email address. We're always happy to talk with prospective students or candidates who are creating an application. Happy to answer any questions that you might have along the way. So please feel free to always reach out to us. And again, we're always here to answer any of your questions. So with that, thank you all so much for joining us today. It's been great seeing so much interest in the program. Hopefully you found some helpful tips here with our application tips webinar, and hopefully hear from you all soon.